What's up, friends? My name's Aaron Ciotti. Everybody calls me Ciotti. That was a really cool spot here in Atlanta. It's a gray, rainy day here in Atlanta, so I'm glad to be hanging out with you. Wonderful, wonderful people. Stuck in Trees was first. Jackalope FPV was next. Freelo Joe, Richard, Frank Nicholas, Michael Blade, Carbon Cage, Northern Tier. Matthew Vega is in the house. Windjumby, Northern Tier again, Espander, Freelo Joe, Brandon's Baked Beans, S Grace, Alley Oop, Remy Tim is here as well, C Young 3000, Windjumby, Jafar Zaidi, Super Deluxe, Apache Smoke, Wounded Sniper, Cool Coyote, It Starts, Go Homage rather, June Loco, Rusty Signals here, what's up Rusty? Brandon's Baked Beans, SSTFPV, Dylan Merck, Super Deluxe in the house, SST again, Martin Wynn, Go Kart Mozart, Dylan Merck, Cool Coyote, Windjumby again, Repeat. Xenakis FPV is in the house of FPV Exchange. If you're not on FPV Exchange, go now. Or else. EE Doc, Mr. Huggy, Banshee Frenzy, Jory FPV, Mike. I'm just going to say Mike and not wreck your last name. CH3 FPV, Jory, and Gamma Go Now. I think I got everybody. If I missed you, you got to come in earlier and type CiottiFPV, because when you type CiottiFPV, that's how you let me know that you're talking to me. Every time somebody types that, it lights up in orange, and I'm going to read it and respond. Michael Blade says, what's going on? Carbon Cage says, hey. C Young 300 says, what's up? Super Deluxe says, seamless transfer. Rusty Signal says, CiottiFPV and the peeps, howdy. What else we got going on here? Brandon's McBean says, diagnosing bad gyro can also include going as far as rotating the flight controller 9 degrees. Ooh, that's a really good idea. And relogging to see if the issue moves or not. Air units powered over flight controller can also affect gyro sometimes. Yeah, so for me, I do most of my troubleshooting and tuning and whatnot. And when I say most, I pretty much mean all, without using black box. So rotating the flight controller is actually a really good idea, because a lot of times you'll be able to tell in the goggles or in the flight footage if the gyro is acting weird on like the roll axis only, for example. And then if you rotate your flight controller 90 degrees and it starts doing that stuff on the pitch axis, now you know you got a bad gyro. When I can't, it's funny that Brandon's Baked Beans posts that, because he's my go-to guy. When I can't troubleshoot something without black box, I'll do a black box log and bug him on Discord, and he's always been super cool. I've only had to do it like once or twice, I think, but he's always helped me out. He's who actually helped me figure out that it's looking like I've got a bad gyro in... it's just starting to get bad, actually, in the backup Cinesplore. I was going to swap the flight controller out last week before the Thursday gig in Asheville, but it's not flying. Like, it still flies and the footage is still smooth with no jello. So I said, you know what, let me not tear this thing apart. God forbid I can't get it put back together. Only having one rig on an actual cinematic shoot is just a horrible idea. So left it together. At some point that is going to get pulled apart and the gyro swapped out. Which will hopefully fix the problem. Windjumby FPV says CiottiFPV and nothing else, just saying hello. Youper FPV says what's up. Rusty Signal says you should have come out yesterday. It was a good meetup. I was hanging out with my girlfriend yesterday, Rusty, up in Lawrenceville. Priorities, man, priorities. EE Doc says, what's your opinion on the full send FPV's bind and fly options? I don't know anything about them. I don't really know anything about bind and flies. I really think that you should custom build to get started in this hobby. I didn't. But, yeah, I mean, you're just going to blow it up anyway. And if you custom built it from scratch, then you'll know how to repair it. Alternatively, I bought a bind and fly when I got started, so that I could like take pictures of it, and when I broke it, like, you know, just reverse engineer, unbuild it and rebuild it. Unbuild it, great. Unbuild it. How about take it apart, dick? Remy Tim says, how was Asheville? It was awesome. It was really, really, really cool. I put a couple of stories up on my Instagram with me just pointing my phone at the laptop with some of the footage. The gig was amazing. It was incredible to work with James Christensen of SOG Productions. James is the documentarian that did Flow State, and it was really, really cool for him to hire me and to get to work with him on a full-blown, pretty gnarly cinematic shoot. We had we must have had 20 plus people, you know, talent, 20 plus, and the location was amazing. The flight path was really, really difficult. It was like a 2.5 minute flight path. that I was having to try to get. I mean, I didn't technically have to get it in one hit, but of course I was hell-bent on doing that, and I did. I got like 4 or 5 completely clean runs in. And yeah, once I ran it through Real Steady Go, it's just it's done. It's so good that like without sound, with just like a song on top, it doesn't really like make sense. It needs a soundscape to it. And once it has it, it's gonna be really cool. So yeah, I'm super excited. The editor's been working on it all weekend. I can't wait to see the first rough draft. It was pretty gnarly. Windjumbry says, what quad that had the loads of video noise? Oh, he says that quad that had the loads of video noise bypassed the flight controller altogether and just running straight from the VTX without OSD. It's just for freestyle, so I'm using the timer on my radio. I've done that before, Windjumbie. Yeah, that's one of the reasons that I actually still to this day use the timer on the radio as just like an extra little backup of like, hey, time to land. Like, oh, let me look at my voltage. Because I don't typically like glance down at the OSD. Like usually I run my OSD on the very bottom so that it's really out of the way. Most of the time when you're flying, you're putting the nose down so you're looking up at the top of the screen. So a lot of times I won't look at my OSD, and when my transmitter starts counting down 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, that's my reminder to kind of like look down at the OSD and check the voltage. Cool Coyote says, any updates on your 3-inch frame? All I have to do is take some photos. No real updates, Cool Coyote. I have really not had the time to devote much effort to it. Ryan Harrell still has it. He cut one single prototype and then he got super busy. Maybe here in the wintertime here when everything kind of cools off and slows down, I'll link back up with him and we'll do a little bit more work on it. To be honest, the other reason I haven't really spent much time on it is that the Ripsqueak frame is really just plenty good. I really don't think that my 3-inch frame is going to be any better than the Ripsqueak frame, to be totally honest. And you know, I'm not looking to sell. I'm not looking to sell anything. So yeah, it's just a very low priority for me. Unfortunately, I just quite frankly, I don't have the time. You don't really make much money selling stuff in FPV. And I really don't have the time to be packaging up, 10, 20, 30, however many, God knows, I might just sell one, but, it's just not a high priority. I'm really, at the moment, very focused on, with the divorce and everything, my life became a little bit more expensive and I have to be able to buy a car. So right now I'm just focused on the things that make me the most possible money. That will certainly change. I don't like to live my life that way. I actually like to live my life the complete opposite way, but right now it's important for me to kind of do that. So yeah, just, you gotta, as an old man now at 40, gotta keep your priorities in order, if nothing else, that's kind of like job one. So, but luckily the things that I can do that make me the most money are things that I really enjoy. So I'm a super lucky person to be in this scenario that I'm in. So this is by no means a complaint. It's just a justification as to why, there hasn't been much, if any, movement on the 3-inch frame that I was working on, but it'll get there for sure. It'll get there. It Starts says, have you seen Nurk's new Cinewoop? It has $129 frame / ducts. I have not. What Nurk's Cinewoop? I didn't know that he was getting involved in frame design at all. I'm kind of shocked, to be totally honest. Google's not finding me anything. What's it called? It Starts, so that I can Google it and find it. Freelojo says, I custom built, then got a bind and fly to get my shit straight. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know what the right intro to the hobby is, but what I do know is that I don't know a goddamn thing about the bind and fly rigs because I can't afford to buy them, and none of those manufacturers send me any of them. So yeah, but luckily there's plenty of other people here on YouTube that get sent all of the bind and flies and do really good tests. So you can just do a quick YouTube search for whichever bind and flies that you're interested in and find some really good info. I would recommend that you pay a little bit of attention to, like, when you're watching a review and the reviewer then goes and flies. I would suggest that you pay attention to where they're at as a pilot, especially in reference to when they're talking about how the rig flies dynamically. There are some reviewers that really can't fly, and if you can't fly good, then you're not going to really understand, in my opinion at least, how the frame really performs. If they're a better pilot than you, then maybe none of that really matters, but, I mean, eventually you're going to get better as a pilot, and you don't want to sort of outgrow the rig, you know what I mean? So I would definitely recommend that you pay a little bit of attention to that, and try to really basically pay attention to the reviews from the guys that are the best pilots when you're listening to them talk about flight dynamics. If you just want somebody to read off the specs because you don't want to read it off of a product page, anybody can do that, right? But in my opinion, if I'm going to take the time to watch a review, all I really care about is how it flies dynamically and how it crashes to some extent, and I guess like kind of how it is to live with it, but a lot of times living with it is just how does it crash. So yeah, I would say pay attention to that for sure. That's, in my opinion, those are the most important things when you're watching reviews. Gamma Gonad says, doesn't sound quite right, but unbuild, it still works in the situation. Wait, what are we talking about, Gamma Gonad? Unbuild? Unbuild. Oh, unbuild. Oh, right. You spelled it different, and it threw me off. Yeah, right. It's not a word, but I'm sure you guys got what I was groping for. CH3FPV says was wondering how much are paid gigs, work / rates, etc. It varies quite a bit, CH3. Typical day rates you're looking at, so in the FPV community of like pilots that take working gigs, what we're trying to do is not cannibalize each other and just charge like $100 day rate to just steal all the jobs. It's probably not something that would happen anyway, because somebody that's going to do that is probably not going to be a great pilot, and then somebody's going to get hurt on set, or the director is just not going to like the results, something like that. Yeah, the majority of us are trying to just not have this race to the bottom, race to be the cheapest. And one of the things that we've all sort of gotten together, and we haven't actually all gotten together, but like we all talk to each other here and there. We're basically trying to not charge less than $1,000 for a day rate. Day rate is just, a big chunk of time per day. For me, what I say for my day rate is up to 10 hours. But there's not like it's just you're working all day, basically. And then typically to get you on site is going to be, so like most gigs you're only going to, if it depends on how the director schedules everything, but if they schedule things properly, realistically you can show up, fly for about an hour, get a lot of good stuff, usually what they need for like a commercial or a music video, and then you're out of there. And most of us are doing $400 to $500 for that first hour. So that covers setting your gear up for that specific gig, charging all your batteries, putting $500 to $1,000 worth of gear up in the air, and flying around for an hour. And then after that, it varies, but anywhere from $100 to $200 per hour. Those are sort of like the standard rates. Everybody's different. A pilot like Tommy, oh my God, is going to charge a lot more than that. And that's also for flying GoPro stuff. Once you start to get into Cinelifter stuff where you're putting $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 cameras up in the air on $1,000 to $2,000 worth of a lifter build, now pretty much everything triples. All of those rates triple. You know, you've got, with those Cinelifter rigs, the batteries themselves are like $200 to $300 each. So it's a huge initial outlay to build something to carry one of those incredibly expensive cameras. And then, you know, the camera itself is like minimum $3,000, upwards of $5,000 or $6,000 or $7,000. So I mean, it's just a whole different world. I really don't necessarily want to get into that world. It's, I don't know, maybe someday, but I would really rather stay with GoPro rigs. They're so much safer. They're so much more nimble. It's so much less. It's just so much less, right? Top to bottom. Everything is less. Less risk, less money, less weight. But I don't know. Who knows? Who knows what the hell will happen? T-Bird says, what's up? Espander says, audible telemetry warnings on the radio. Yep, I have those as well. I really love audible warnings because it's in your face. It's, you know, you don't have to look at it. Your ears aren't doing shit, right? Like, your ears are just kind of listening to where the rig is and listening for somebody to walk up on you. So if you can take in some information into your ears, it's kind of like free data coming in or whatever. Martin Wynn with a 2, I believe that's pound, super chat. Thank you very much, Martin. He says, senior gig on Insta, respect. Thanks, brother. Yeah, I'm glad that some of you guys got to see that. It was, whew, that was really cool. Jackalope FPV with a $5 super chat to the Mazda Fund and a whole bunch of fun emojis. 2232 is going to 2237. Thank you very much, Jackalope. Remy Tim says he's flying the Shendrone's Terraplane. Oh, okay. Yeah, whoever asked the question said it was his. Maybe it is. Maybe the Terraplane is his frame. I didn't think it was. I thought it was just a Shendrone's frame. Yeah, I actually helped somebody tune a Terraplane a week or two ago, and learned a bunch about it. It's interesting. I don't know. It occupies this space of being a lot heavier than most Cinewoops. Like a Terraplane is going to end up weighing like 700 to 800 grams, which is like kind of insane. Like, that's heavy enough where if you try to fly it inside, which is where I do the majority of my work with my Cinewoops, it's not going to be accurate at all. You know, I specifically build my Cinewoops to be like sub 400 grams so that they don't have a lot of momentum, so that if you turn a corner in a tight hallway, it doesn't have this momentum that just carries it into the outside wall. So, you know, the Terraplane is in this place where, like, it's not going to be all that, it's not going to be great to fly inside unless it's like a bigger building or like a stadium or something like that, at which point it's like, we'll just fly a 5-inch rig and you're going to get a way better performance. But then the argument to that is, well, what if you're flying in a stadium with people? So now I guess it kind of makes sense. But at that point, why not just buy 5-inch prop guards and just fly your regular 5-inch build with prop guards or bolt-on ducts? So I don't know. I don't really understand the Terraplane, to be completely honest. But yeah, I guess if a regular 3-inch Cinewoop is not fast enough and doesn't have enough power for you, that's where the Terraplane comes in. But I don't know. I have not had that problem with the Cinesplorers on the 2004s. They've always had tons of power. I've flown them. I did a gig with a high school football team, and I was railing around a football stadium with it, and it was like totally fine. So yeah, I don't know. I don't really understand the use for the Terraplane. But you know, Nurk is a way more famous, way more successful pilot than me, so you should probably believe him and not me, right? But for me, I don't have any interest in that build. It's way too heavy, and yeah, it just I've never had a situation where it was like, ooh, I wish I had a Cinewoop that is twice as heavy with a little bit extra power. But hey, that's just me. You know, Nurk flies way more gigs than I do, and again, is way more successful than I am. So he knows way better than me. Rusty says it's Shendron's new whoop. Freelojo says just put the Diatone Roma F35 on a. God damn it! YouTube just did the thing. Scrolling back up. There it is. Freelojo says, just put the Diatone Roma F35 on a card with a Zepto. What? I don't know what a Zepto is, but how did you put a quad on a card? What? I think the Diatone Roma F35 is a quad, right? How do you put a quad on a card? I'm confused. Freelojo. Kevin says, please ask Bob for some 16mm FPV cycle motors to review them on 3 or 3.5 inch rigs. 16. What are his... I mean, FPV Cycles website is having the same problems as mine. It's got a invalid whatever. Jib jab. How do you get through this? Advanced, and then come on, let me just trust it. Where's the button to just trust it? Oh, come on, really? Well, whatever. 16mm motor. I don't really. That would work well for a 3.5 inch. That's not really a 3-inch motor. That's more of a 3.5 inch motor. And to be totally honest, I'm not really going down the 3.5 inch propeller path. I don't think. I'm pretty locked in on 3-inch. With 3-inch propellers, you can build them up to between like 220 and 250 grams all up weight. And that flies a little bit closer to the way a 5-inch freestyle build does than being at 250 grams with a 3.5 inch prop. The 3.5 inch prop to feel like a 5-inch freestyle rig needs to be like 280, 290, 300 grams. And we all want to try to stay below 250, right? So yeah, a 16mm motor, like if Bob did send those to me, it would be quite a while before I got a bunch of the other more pressing stuff out of the way that I could justify kind of testing them. I'm sure they're great though, and if you want, and if you're building the 3.5 inch prop rig, I think those would probably be the motors that I would go with. If not those, I would go with the X-Nova 1804s. And what I would check is whether or not Bob's 16mm motors have a 3mm motor shaft. If they have a 3mm motor shaft, then the FPV Cycle 16mm motors are probably going to be just as good, every bit as good as the X-Nova 1804s. If they don't, I would actually recommend that you not get them and that you get the X-Nova 1804s instead, because they do have a 3mm motor shaft, and that is a big deal. So I would definitely say check that. But if a 16mm stator is big enough to have a 3mm motor shaft, and I have beaten into Bob's head over the years how important it is and how fragile the 2mm motor shafts are. So I wouldn't be surprised if the 16mm motors do have a 3mm wide motor shaft, diameter motor shaft. So yeah, they're probably really good. CMYK FPV is in the house. What's up, brother? King Turkey says, you notice a difference between FPV Cycle Glide and Pyro Glide frames. Picked up 2 from Pyro. Tolerances are kind of sloppy at the arm connections. Wondering if FPV Cycle are better. Absolutely, King Turkey. The reason that the Glide is no longer manufactured by Pyro Drone was because Pyro Drone could not get the tolerances that Bob wanted. So that was one of the first things that sparked him to get FPVcycle.com off the ground. So yeah, if you're gonna buy a Glide, definitely buy it from FPV Cycle. Bob is he's kind of crazy about trying to find plants that can produce good quality, because he has to be, because most manufacturers don't. Most manufacturers don't produce good quality stuff. It's really like the most frustrating part about FPV is that most of these manufacturers just, there's been a race to the bottom for many, many, many years. So having the cheapest thing on the market is king, and with cheap comes horrible quality a lot of the times. So you got to be really careful with that. This is one of the reasons why over on Fiverr I have a service called Build Planning, where I help you not pick the garbage. Now, I don't know all of the garbage, but I know a couple $1,000s worth of the garbage that are sitting over there on a shelf blown up over the last 5 years. So I can really help steer folks away from electronics and frames and motors and props that are known within those of us that have flown a lot of them to be shit. So that, you know, instead of buying an ESC for $80 that catches on fire, you give me $80 and I tell you to not buy that, and all is right with the world. Speaking of, this is my full-time job. CiottiFPV.com is my website. Okay. Well. Is everything invalid right now? What's going on? Chrome, let me go to my own fucking website, please. Is the whole of the internet like this right now? Is that what's going on? No, it's not. Why is this just all of a sudden happening? Like, why right now? Everything was fine yesterday, and the day before, and every single day before that. Oh my god, you piece of shit. Come on, computer. Why? Let me get... What? Hold on. I just turned it off, you fucker! Well, I don't know. Do whatever you want. If you can get to it, go to CiottiFPV.com and click a bunch of buttons. I got a bunch of stuff going on. Patreon helps me out the most. I don't have time for this shit. Moving on. Freelojo says, awesome info on the day rates. It starts, says, not to mention liability insurance fees. Yeah, there's a lot that goes into it. There's a lot. Christopher Young with a $10 super chat. Thanks so much, Chris. He says, what's the most annoying thing about flying for work like last weekend? There's really not much. There's not much that's annoying. I mean, I guess the only annoying thing is when you get asked to do something that's too sketchy and you have to say no. That's about it. But, you know, like, when you do that, like, it's only annoying internally because as soon as you say no, like, that's kind of the end of it. Like, they can't just get somebody else real quick. Like, you say no, that's too sketchy. Like, what I'll do is I'll blame it on the FAA, and I'll just say, like, hey, you know, the FAA has, like, we're on their radar, and we got to be a little bit careful, and you don't want them coming after you either. And that's the end. Like that is just the end of the, like, sometimes I'll throw around, you know, like the number $18,000, which is, I think, what the idiot up in Philly got fined. And that's kind of it. Like that's, yeah. there's not really much that's annoying. Like we're so unique. We're so like as FPV pilots, we're so impossible to find that most of these people that are going to hire us are like just thrilled to have us and just blown away by everything that we do. Like anything, just like holding a straight line in through a doorway is like, oh! So yeah, there's really not much that's annoying. And I don't really do any editing either. I just show up, fly, throw the footage through Real Steady, throw it up on Google Drive, and that's that. If I had to edit it, the editing process would definitely be the most annoying, but I'm not a great editor. I'm slow, and I just don't like doing it. I've done it too much. I went to college back in the late 1900s for communications with a specialization in TV radio, and in college, and then for the next like 5 or so years I did a ton of editing, and I kind of burned it out. And I've never really wanted to do it like I'll have like I'll have like a couple days where I'm like all fucking psyched up about editing, and then just every single time it's like, ugh. That's why I usually have like a bunch of, like I think I have 2 edits that are completely finished right now, that all I need to do is like make the thumbnail, export them, put a couple titles on them, and they'll be good to go. But just getting into editing mode takes I have to be in a good mindset. Not a good mindset, just in a specific mindset, and I haven't been lately, and which is totally fine. I take like breaks, or I'll take like a couple weeks off of editing, and then I'll put like a few days in, and then I'll take another like week off. It's weird. But that's just what works for me. So, Winjumby says, Skyzone 04X has stereo. Sometimes I like the fully immersive feel of headphones. I've tried flying with audio before. It's kind of disorienting. I like to hear the delay between when I jab the throttle to when I hear the quad. That's my way of knowing how far away I am. And when I flew with audio, when I flew with both ears in, I didn't get that at all. When I flew with just one ear in, it just confused me, because in one ear it was right away, and then in the other ear there was the delay, and it was just kind of like too much for me to parse out. What I do like is if I'm flying something that is loud enough that I can't hear the quad, then I do like audio. Or if I'm flying far enough away that I can no longer hear the quad with my actual ear holes, then I do like audio. And I have a set of headphones that the one guy that makes all the FPV headphones made for me, with a little short lead on it for both ears. I had him make that. I realized this flying drift events. The stupid VQ and LS engines are so goddamn loud and awful that you can't hear the sound of the quad, and when I can't hear the quad, I'm just not as comfortable, because like the sound of the quad is how I can tell what I'm doing with the throttle. Otherwise, like, the throttle is just this mystery land of, like, maybe, you know, like, God knows where the throttle is. Like, did I do too big of a blip or not enough of a blip? So, yeah, flying drift events, it definitely helps me out to run headphones to get that instant feedback from when I change the throttle to hearing the motors wind up and down. Rob Logan Jr. says, what up, bro? Emailed you back. No rush on that. Very cool, Rob. I usually handle my emails, like, every few days, so... if I haven't got back to you, it'll only be a couple days usually. Winjumby says, TBS VTXs have food quality microphones. Sounds good. Frank Nicholas says, the Terraplane is Andy Shendron's frame. Nurk seems to like Andy's frames for small cinematic work. Look for Nurk's Indoor Museum University Flight / documentary. Yep, all good points brought up by Frank. Metal Dirksen says, I think both Nurk and Andy are saying the Terraplane is more of a tool to do full acro in a place where you need enclosed props, whereas indoors you'd probably go naked GoPro. I don't find it necessary to go naked GoPro indoors. My problem with the naked GoPros is they're just not durable at all, and you have to remember to hit the start and stop button. Those two things are just like, that's just a recipe for disaster. So I'm not really into the naked GoPro thing. But yeah, the Terraplane, the only real use for it is exactly what Metal Dirksen would say. Yeah, if you want to be able to do full acro in a big location, but you've also got people around. But again, in that case, I would just take a glide and just buy a set of those prop guards and just bolt those on, which is basically all the Terraplane is. Like that the Terraplane is just, it just has a set. So yeah, I don't really understand having a specific build for that. But hey, you know, if you've got a bunch of gigs where you're going to be needing to do exactly that, then that's maybe the right frame for you. But like I said, I would just slap a set of prop guards on a glide and be done with it. And that way you don't have another. I come at the, like, you know, Nurk kind of has an unlimited budget, right? Like, he's got 2 Teslas now, I think. So like, money is kind of no object to him, which is amazing. Like, you know, I love that for him. I'm the ass opposite end of that spectrum, where money is a huge deal for me. And building an entire separate rig for a flight scenario that is almost never going to happen for me, it just doesn't make any sense. I would rather spend money on a set of prop guards that'll adapt one of the other rigs that I have. Plus, then it's one less rig to have around, and it's one less rig to have to bring, right? Like, if I go to a gig that requires that, I can just bring a glide, and then I've actually got, you know, one less thing hanging off the bag, one less set of electronics, one less set of everything, right? One less set of specific motors that's required. So yeah, I try to keep the fleet as shrunken down as possible. And also, it's one less rig to have to learn, right? Like I talk all the time about muscle memory and trying to only have like 1 or 2 different builds that you fly, and fly them as often as possible so that you really get used to them. You know, adding a third build to that for me is, you know, like, frankly, I'm not that good of a pilot, right? Like, Nurk was on DRL. He's been flying for a lot longer than me. He's probably better at being able to adapt. But for me, you know, I'm just not that good. Although, even if I was that good, I still wouldn't want to do that. I would still want to fly the least number of rigs possible, so that I'm as good as I possibly can be on those, you know, in my case, 2 specific rigs, basically, Cinesplorer and Glide. But that's just me, you know, no wrong answers. That's just my outlook on it. Ispander says, last Sunday got both of my 5-inch rigs stuck in a pretty much unrecoverable spot, 100 plus feet of the growing under a tall ass bridge, both DJI with good cameras. Now I'm grounded for an unknown amount of time. That fucking sucks, Ispander. There's gotta be a way to get those down, though. 100 plus feet off the ground, that's what he was trying to type. Under a tall ass bridge. Sounds like, oh man, I don't know. I mean, it's hard from that, but there's got to be a way to get them down, man. That's like $1,200, $1,300, $1,400, $1,500 of shit up there. There's got to be a way to get those down. Maybe like a Cinewoop. Maybe if you put like a Cinewoop up there and fucking ram them or something like that, or put a little hook or a little something on a Cinewoop, then you can lose 3 rigs up there. I don't know. Freeloader says, I'm stoned and you're funny. Credit and Ghost RX. Freelojo says you should check out the F35. I think that's a bind and fly rig. I don't really do the whole bind and fly rig thing. But I have heard that some of the I mean, there's always been really good bind and flies. It's never going to be my thing. They almost never put 2306s on bind and flies, and they never build bind and flies to be lightweight. Bind and flies are always super, super, super fat. And I hate the way that fat boy rigs fly. But again, that's just me. Letterson says, FPV Cycle 16mm is 9x9 mount, it looks like. Well, that's pretty rad. I really like that. I really like that it's a 9x9 mount. That's That's awesome. Damn. Mr. Huggy says FPV Cycle's 16mm motors have a 3mm shaft. Awesome. But it's also a 3mm prop mount. Oh, right. Yeah, so I mean, that's a problem. Because there really aren't any propellers. There's probably like one propeller that uses the 3mm prop mount. But I do think that there's a sleeve to adapt that to 5mm, at which point you can just run regular M5 nut mount 3-inch props, of which there are some really good ones. The best that I've found is the T-Motor 3140, which would actually rail on that motor on a 16mm wide stator. I believe it's a 5mm tall stator. I could totally be wrong there, but yeah, that would be a really good prop. A little bit of a heavier prop, but nice and durable. That would be good for like a 3-inch build, right on 250 all-up weight on the ripsqueak frame with the thicker, the heavier duty arms. Frank Nicholas dropping the link to CiottiFPV.com. Thank you, brother. Lanky bastard. Rob Logan Jr. says, oh, dude, it's not you. I'm a web developer, and Let's Encrypt, largest SSL provider, was recently forced to expire a shitload of their sites, so I bet that's why you should look into it. Rob, is there like what do I do to fix it? Any idea? Is there like, do I just need to, what do I do? Tell me what to do and I'll do it. Bob Noxious says, what's up? Kevin says, the 16mm from 9x9 M2 mount, 13 grams, 16 grams with propped adapter, N52 magnets, 3mm, awesome. Thank you, Kevin. YouTube just did the thing again. Here we go. Remy Tim says, is that where I'm at? Yeah. Hey, Scarecrow, what's up, brother? Scarecrow FPV's in the house. Remy Tim says, naked GoPros can stop recording on a switch. Same with the Caddx Peanut. Just putting that on a disarm switch covers that whole issue of forgetting to hit stop. That's pretty cool. I like that a lot. Yeah, kind of. I'm trying to think, is there any situation where that would kind of screw you up? I don't really think so. It could. So, Real Steady Go, one of the things about Real Steady Go is, so one of the things that happens if you go over 5 minutes on a GoPro Hero is it splits the file up, and that becomes a really big problem if you're in the middle of a line and you're planning on running that footage through Real Steady Go. So in theory, worst case scenario, having start and stop on your arm switch, if you're in the middle of a line and for whatever reason you disarm, that's going to split the file. I would actually, in that case, rather have the GoPro keep recording. But, I mean, if you're disarming, that's kind of the end of the line anyway. So that would be like a 1 in a million thing that would kind of screw you up. But that's the only thing I can think of. Yeah, it would be cool to have start and stop with the disarm. I'm sure there's a... I don't know. It would be nice to have that. It really would. I think. It starts says, when do we get to meet the new boo? Whenever she chooses, you know, this little world here is like outside of reality, you know what I mean? And like a lot of people don't necessarily want to be plastered all over the internet forever, right? So that's totally up to her. I'm not going to pressure her at all about that. If she wants to come and meet you guys, she will. But usually her and I are hanging out when I'm not streaming, right? This is my job. You know, she has her job. So yeah, it might be a while, you know, it might realistically not be until we live together. But she's worth waiting for. Frank Nicholas says certificate problem is not Let's Encrypt. All right, lots of confusing things that I don't know. Juice Lucas says move her in. No, it'll be the other way around. I'm the unsuccessful pleb in an apartment. She's the very successful person with a with a beautiful house. So yeah, it'll be the other way around. I think, I hope that at some point I might be able to kind of sort of take over her spare bedroom in the house. Not take over, but like put a desk in there, and get the laptop up so that I have a spot to remotely stream from. Like right now, for example, right? Like I would love to finish up this stream and hang out with her. But see, the other problem is that the cat's still here, so whenever I go over there and hang out, like there's only so many hours before I have to come back here and feed Kitten his very specific food. But Harry is going to be going with his mom at some point here within the next couple of weeks, so that will, I don't know. There's a ton of life shit going on that, yeah, we'll just sort of get sorted out. Rob Logan says, SSL test in your domain name, first thing is that there's a server name mismatch. I don't know what any of that means, but it doesn't sound good. But that's okay. I'm caught up on the chat. Let's go over here and start ripping this glide apart. I've left the huge mess from the other day. Oh god, that's, hold on, I gotta go. I threw a battery, it went into a box. If I don't get it out of the box, it'll get thrown away with the box. Where the hell did it go? Okay. Where'd it go? What? There it is. Alright, we're good. We good. Everything's fine. Nobody panic. Nobody panic. It's gonna be all right. Rob Logan says, check Discord. I just messaged you. Like, awesome. Thank you, Rob. Much appreciated. I don't know internet things, so any help that you guys give me is always appreciated. And I don't really have any. I'm not going to learn internet things either. I just don't have the time or the patience. But luckily, you guys tend to help me out with that nonsense, and that is much appreciated. Let's get this guy all wrapped up here. So I think on the last stream, what's today? Sunday. So I think on Friday's stream, we we figured out. I mean, I used every bit of troubleshooting chops that I've got to try to figure out why the hell 2 flight controllers in a row blew up on this rig. And unless one of you guys can find something in that stream that I missed, it seems like this ESC is somehow blowing up flight controllers. And I really don't like the fact that this ESC doesn't allow me to go down to 24K PWM. So I'm just going to pull this ESC out and throw it on the shelf of broken shit and move on. This has been the workhorse rig that I've been using to test these 20x20 Acon ESCs, and like they're a couple grams lighter than these 30x30 Acons, but I mean I have a bunch of these 30x30s, so yeah, I'm just gonna put one in this rig, and then all of the glides will be on the exact same ESC, which doesn't really matter. The 20x20 Acon performed every bit as good as the 30x30. It was a fun little experiment. It's good to know that the 20x20s are good. This is the V3 20x20. Like I said, I don't necessarily like this one because it only allows 48 and 96K PWM. I prefer 24K PWM. So if you're going to get a 20x20 Acon ESC, I would recommend you get the V2, not the V3. But to be honest, I think I don't know. I guess the V2 20x20, I don't think there's any reason to not pick that over the 30x30. Like I said, I have a whole bunch of these 30x30s here, so I'm just going to use them. But if I was to buy, if I didn't have any ESCs, I guess I would look for an Acon 20x20 V2, because that's going to save you a little bit of weight, and it's going to, yeah, the V1, I had to beat that thing absolutely back to the 1800s to get it to blow up. So I don't necessarily think there's any difference in durability between the 20x20 and the 30x30. All that being said, I don't know. You could maybe argue that the 30x30 is more or less durable. Well, that's interesting. They put tiny little... Huh. Okay. This is a little bit different than the other 30x30s that I've got. So, yeah, okay. Bob Noxious says, I was catching up on streams Friday and saw you were in Asheville. If you came up 85, you literally passed within a quarter mile from my house in Traveler's Rest. I did drive right past Traveler's Rest, Bob, but I was slammed busy. Maggie and I were hauling ass to get to the shoot, and then after the shoot, we had to rip over to the Airbnb, and then yeah, we didn't have a ton of time. I would love to have stopped by, but I didn't message anybody. Like, I would love to have stopped and said hi to a couple of people, but there just wasn't the time. And her and I wanted to kind of, you know, be lovebirds and do that thing. So next time, though. Next time for sure. Metadarkskin says, a reminder, the Heli Nation Talon Gigawatt 20x20 is actually an Acon. Not sure on which version, though. Yeah, I've heard this, and it certainly looks like it is. The only questionable thing is Corey Cricket is, I don't know if he still is, but he was sponsored by them, and he tried that ESC, and he had a whole bunch of them fail on him, and then he started running the Acons, and he didn't have that issue. So that was original, because I originally wanted to use that ESC, but then after I talked to Corey, I was like, well, fuck that, no way. So I don't know, he could maybe have just had a bad batch, or maybe Acon makes that to a different spec than their own. But I don't know, I can't speak to its durability personally. What I will say is Patrick, my local FPV buddy here, he has been using those Talons, and he's had really good luck with them. So they may very well be totally fine, and Corey is just an absolute... I mean, he is really, really, really hard on gear, and maybe he just got a couple bad ones or whatever. And that was a while ago. Maybe they're built to a different spec now than they were. But just some food for thought. And an explanation as to why I've never gone with the Gigawatt. Jesus, this thing is really disgusting. I gotta get a new flux pen. This thing is the one part of it is like falling off, and it's getting like, and the flux is kind of starting to ooze out here, and it gets all fucking gummy and sticky, and that's what she said. Okay, let's get these motor wires taken off here. This sucks, man. I hate having to swap out ESCs. I really hate the fact that 2 flight controllers in a row have blown up here. My God, that was a big poof of flux smoke there. This is, I'm very annoyed at what has gone down with this build. And I'm really annoyed that this, like, fucking $80 ESC is just gone. I mean, I don't know. I don't know how else to troubleshoot it. I really don't understand how this ESC could be blowing up flight controllers, but if you watch Friday's stream, I don't know if you're gonna, like, we kind of tested everything. I was really hoping that somebody would comment on that stream and go like, yo, you forgot to test this. But nobody has, and like most of you guys were on that stream, like helping me troubleshoot it in the chat. And yeah, I mean, I think we covered all bases. I don't know, it really sucks. And I bought this ESC so long ago that I don't really, I don't know. I guess I could maybe try to return it or whatever, but I don't know. I don't know. And then they would just want to send me another one, and I don't really want it. I don't want to be limited to 48 and 96K on the PWM. So I'm kind of just chalking this up as a loss, I think. And yeah, I mean, I guess, I don't know, maybe if, I'm tempted to say like, maybe if one of you guys wants it, but I don't necessarily want to give this to one of you guys and have you blowing up flight controllers, especially because flight controllers are now like $1,000 fucking with the prices on all this shit going up. So yeah, I think this ESC just needs to go to the bottom of the ocean. Not really, but you know what I mean. Alright, so the motor wires are off. Let's get this. I also destroyed this plug header cable by chopping the positive and negative leads off of it in a fit of rage. So we're just going to actually throw this out because I have about 1 million of these. Oh, very cool. Big FPV says Heli Nation has confirmed it is Acon. That's awesome. I know, Scarecrow. I really wanted to come see you, man. But we, Maggie and I had like 4 whole hours to ourselves. So, you know, I'm sure you understand. And there's T-Bird. Yep. He says, didn't even say hey to me. Yep, I know. I didn't message any of you guys because I didn't want to be like, hey, I'm coming to Asheville, but I'm not going to come see you. I had the gig. I went up, flew the gig. We got some food. We got out of there. Bob Noxious says, I didn't figure you would have the time, but I thought it was cool. I appreciate that, man. Yeah, someday I'll come up there on an FPV adventure and we'll all hang out. But for right now, I am just enjoying the hell out of my time. Out of the 2 or so days a week, usually, that I get to spend with Maggie, which is nowhere near enough time, but it's all about just appreciating the time that you've got together. With all things in life, you know? Like, it's no good to... It's not good for your soul to always look at, like, what could be. You gotta just appreciate what you got, make the most out of it, and tomorrow's a new day. Which is a really, really, really hard thing to not wrap your head around, but it takes a lot of discipline to not, you know, future think, and to not like, ooh, what could have, in a perfect world, shit like that. So, yeah, you just gotta love what you got, and I most definitely love what I got. Bob Noxious says, send it to Tiago. Doesn't he get the old electronics? Yeah, I just sent Tiago a huge package of electronics. I wish this was in there. Go-Kart Mozart says, get the ESC replaced, then give away the new one. I'll look up how long ago it's been. There's a chance I bought it like a year ago, though. And if I bought it a year ago, I don't really feel comfortable asking them to replace that. What do you guys think about that, though? What Erickson says, keep that chopped one around with strip leads for testing. That's a good idea, but it would only... Scarecrow says I would have flaked out anyways. I just have so many of these little bastards that... yeah, it's I need to get rid of them. Expander says, what would be a good motor size for freestyle 3-inch apex on with Vista on 4X? 4S, great. I would go with the X-Nova 1804 or the so the Apex frame is incredibly heavy. The mini Apex frame is absolutely ridiculously heavy. So you're going to need a huge motor for that. So Bob's 16 millimeter motor or the X-Nova 1804 realistically are the only motors that I'd be looking at to pick up such a heavy ass, needlessly, to be honest, heavy frame that is the Apex Micro. The Apex Micro frame, in my opinion, makes way more sense on a 4-inch propeller with the 4-inch arms. As a 3-inch, it's going to end up being like a 300 gram 3-inch rig, and that doesn't really fly all that good. That's what the that's what my my Acrobrats ended up being. They were like pushing 300 grams, not quite there, but and on a 3-inch propeller, in my opinion, that really doesn't feel anything like a 5-inch freestyle rig. And that's always how I try to build my micros. I try to build them to mimic 5-inch rigs' flight characteristics as closely as possible. And I don't fly 800-900 gram 5-inch rigs, so it pretty much feels nothing like a 5-inch rig. So yeah, there's that. If you fly horrendously heavy 5-inch rigs, then maybe you would like that. But I personally don't. In my opinion, it falls out of the sky like a sack of hammers as soon as you come off the throttle, and I don't like that flight experience. I like a little bit more hang time than that, a little bit more float than that, but not so much float that it flies like a toothpick. A 4-inch frame that's very lightweight, 4-inch build that's really lightweight, like 300 grams all up. That, in my opinion, flies like a toothpick, and I don't like that either. There's a balance, but it's a very personal balance, and you guys need to make those decisions for yourself. Don't just blindly follow me or somebody else. Go through that like thought experiment yourself, figure out what fits your needs best, and then that's what you should be flying. I can certainly help you out with that. That's one of the things that I really love doing as a part of the build planning over on Fiverr. Or you can, spend the time and do that yourself. It's a really good little journey of self-exploration that you need to kind of do to make sure that you're building stuff that's going to fit your style of flying and the locations that you're going to fly at and stuff like that. Put a little bit of fresh solder in there just to get a little bit of fresh flux in there. So this is the ground pad, which is going to be a pain in the ass. It always is, but you just got to be patient and everything will come off. Like that. And there we go. Oh, nope. That guy sort of reconnected himself. A big ass solder ball went flying too. I'd love to know where the hell that went. I was being a little sloppy. Trying to get this. Why am I doing it with the tip of the soldering iron? Just wait till it dries and scrape it off, you dummy. So yeah, I mean, I don't see anything wrong. Nothing like jumps out at me on here as being blown up. Can't really see anything. I mean, yeah, can't see through the heatsink, so maybe there's something going on under the heatsink, but I don't know. Very strange problem with this V3 Acon AK32 pin. This is really the first time that I've had an actual problem with an Acon ESC, so I don't know. I mean, their track record has been unbelievable. I guess you could totally say like that eventually it was bound to happen. But whatever. This does not tarnish my my opinion at all that Acon ESCs and just Acon electronics in general are the best that we have access to at the price points that they're at. I'm going to shrink this shrink wrap up a little bit more that are on these tweezers. Hold on a second, people. Doing important work here. That actually backfired. Come on. Shrink down, you jerks. Yeah, whatever. Okay. Go-Kart Mozart says, I have quad parts fix themselves all the time just by giving them a timeout in the parts bin, so don't trash it yet. Yeah, I've had that happen too. It's so goddamn weird. Freelojo says, the F35 is a 3.5 inch with 2203.5 4200 kV 4S. Jesus. That is a lot of motor. For a 3.5 inch prop. That's more than likely a little bit under propped, to be honest. But it'll make a absolute ass load of power on that setup. So I mean, if you like rigs that are super powerful, which I don't, that's probably going to be a good bind and fly for you. I prefer rigs that are bordering on being underpowered, which gives you much more throttle resolution and tends to make you a better pilot, and it makes your flight footage look a lot more interesting. Basically because the less power you've got, the more throttle resolution that you have, and then the more sensitivity you have, specifically when you're flying around objects. So like when you have a ton of power, what tends to happen is you just fire yourself up into the clouds all the time. And like as a pilot, that's fun, don't get me wrong. It's very fun to just go shooting up into the sky and then wait 10 seconds to come down. But when somebody is watching you do that over and over again, like the third or fourth time you do it, they're kind of like, they sort of just tune out because, you know, it's like the same thing over and over and over again. Like how many times... Like for us as a pilot, like it's infinitely fun, right? But for like anybody else, it's just like, why does this fucking person keep screaming up into the sky and just, you know, hanging out over and over and over again? So yeah, I go with, basically what I do is I go with the least powerful setup that I can possibly stomach, and that way I have the most possible throttle resolution, and that allows me to get as close to objects as possible because I've got literally more control. You can fly lower to the ground that way, which looks amazing. And just, yeah, when you're flying around obstacles, you've got more throttle resolution. So if you like bump the throttle a little bit too much, you're not going to go hammering into the metal pole. You're going to potentially just barely miss it, and that looks really cool. I do a lot of like tuning and building by watching my footage. If I have a setup where I come home after flying and the footage looks amazing, like I pay attention to that and I like look at that setup and say like, all right, well, what's different between this setup and my other ones where I don't look like, you know, where my flying is not as interesting or whatever. But that's just me, you know, I'm a YouTuber now. If you just fly for fun, then yeah. And if Yeah, no wrong answers. No wrong answers. My approach to FPV is gonna be very different than most. Always remember that. And yeah, you do you. You do you, bros and broettes. You do you. So I just realized that I need to epoxy a part of this ESC, which means that, well, wait, you know what? This epoxy sets pretty quick. So maybe it'll set quick enough. Man, this makes me so sad. This is the last Acon F7 Mini version 1.1 in the world. And it just got blown up. I didn't even get to fly the damn thing. That makes me sad. This is the most durable flight controller I've found. Yeah, on the shelf it goes. If I blow another one up, I'll send them both to Tiago. Well, no, wait, the previous one did blow up, but I think the same thing blew up on him. Eventually, I'll send them to Tiago. Maybe he can fix them. Maybe not. But see, when I send Tiago stuff, I send it to him so that he can fix it and keep it. I don't. So yeah. But I don't know. We'll see. Whatever. I'll find another flight controller that's just as good, probably. Okay. Robin Duckett says Joshua was shilling CiottiFPV's PID tuning services on a stream earlier. Oh, that's pretty cool. That's mighty nice of him. Joshua's amazing. What a fucking amazing man. We are so lucky to have him. We are like for real. Do you guys realize like how lucky we really are to have Joshua in this hobby? Like, it's extraordinary. Like it really is. Like I have a feeling that anybody who's hanging out here with me understands that. But if you don't, like, it's yeah. It's pretty. It's not something that we should take for granted. To have access to him. I mean, the fact that he answers emails and Facebook messages, and I mean, it's just wild. It really is. I couldn't do it. I can't do it. I can't. I'll take like weeks to get back to people sometimes. And it's, you know, I don't like that, but it's just, I handle stuff, I prioritize stuff, and I handle the stuff that is the highest priority first. And sometimes that means that I don't get back to people for a while, and that sucks, but there's only so much time in the day, and there's only so much time that I can work before the mental illness comes online and starts kicking the shit out of me. Joshua does not seem to have that same struggle, and like, thank God. He works 8+ hours a day on FPV stuff every single day. And I just don't, and I can't. I've tried that, and it just doesn't work. So the decision, you know, became like either work 4 to 6 hours a day and keep going, or quit. And get a corporate job again. But the problem is, with corporate jobs, it was the same thing. Especially as I got older, it got worse and worse and worse. So in a weird way, like, it almost feels like this current career that I'm in is this is going to sound bad, but just bear with me. It almost seems like this is the best that I can do. That's got a very negative connotation to it, but it's what I want to do. I'm again, like, so lucky to be in the position that I'm in. And like, you know, I mean, it didn't happen by random chance. Like, I put the time in. I had, like, very early on, I just had this vision that FPV pilots would be, because I've been involved in the film industry in one way or another for the last like 20 or so years, and very early on I saw this potential with FPV as this incredible way to move a camera around. And that was one of the things that always drove me. And it was also one of the main reasons that I spent so much time flying. Like, if you're gonna stay into FPV for a long time, you tend to like go through phases where like you'll have like 6 months where you're focused on building, and then you'll have 6 months that you're focused on flying, and then you'll have a year that you're focused on, I don't know, the newest hottest thing or whatever. For me, the main focus was always flying. Like, it was always just get better as a pilot. Do whatever it takes to get better as a pilot. Because this is what I wanted. Like, I wanted to get paid to fly, basically. And or, like, fly for a living or whatever the hell you want to call it. So that was that main, like, carrot on a string for me. And I'm super lucky that it worked out at all, but I don't know. It's just it's interesting that the FPV is just, it's very unique, right? Like, you got to learn social media, you got to learn to be an engineer, you got to learn to be a videographer, you got to learn to be a fighter pilot. Like, there's like a dozen different specific things, and like it's really hard to balance all of those, and like, I don't think the answer is to give like 10% to each one of those things. I think the answer is to like figure out what it is for, what it's going to be for you. Are you totally happy with your day job and it can just be a hobby? Amazing. Like, remember that, right? Don't like start watching me and like look at my approach and be like, oh, monkey see, monkey do. Have that inner monologue with yourself to figure out what you love the most about it and what you think maybe the future could hold for it, because the cinematic flying shit is not for everybody, for sure. It's very nerve-wracking, like I can do a really good job with it because I grew up playing drums from like the age of 9, being on stage, and I got pretty good at it, so I would have like solos and shit, so an auditorium full of people staring at me, and then just like throughout the course of my life, like I've just had a lot of situations where I've been forced into performing in front of shitloads of people, so I'm able to handle that level of stress and channel that stress into performing, right? And some people can't, and like that's not those people aren't bad, right? It's just, it's one of the things that makes that person an individual. So yeah, the whole cinematic flying thing's definitely not for everybody. You really have to be able to handle a shitload of stress all at once, because the bigger the gig that you get, the less takes there's going to be, and the less, and so then it just gets worse and worse and worse. Like, you have to be, you're flying around more important people or objects, and you have less of an opportunity to try again. So you absolutely have to be able to just nail it on the first or second shot a lot of times, and that's really difficult, because at that point you're being asked to fly through 15 different gaps, fly sideways, fly backwards, blind, whatever it may be, and yeah, you got to be the type of person. So yeah, I don't know, that's a hell of a rant. Bob Noxious says, Bob Noxious is going to fly before the rain comes. Lucky him. Robin Duckett says, will a throttle limit help with throttle resolution? It will, but I would rather put a smaller, lighter weight motor on that I can run at like 95% throttle. You know what I mean? Having like a 2207 or a 2208, and then throttle limiting it down to like 80%, 75%. You've built a rig that flies worse, right? For no reason. You can put a lightweight 2306 on there, save 3 or 4 or 5 grams per corner, and the rig will fly way, way, way better. So yeah, and that's one of my issues with bind and flies. Bind and flies tend to have just way too much horsepower, and then it's like, yeah, you can throttle limit it down, or you can just build yourself a better rig, and that's why I love to do the build planning with people, because yeah, I mean, it really makes a huge difference. Like, building a rig with all the right parts, it is immediately evident, and it really does make a big difference. The folks that have worked with me on those build planning services, like, they come into the chat and are like, holy shit, this thing flies so good, for a reason. You know, they're not just saying that to help me. Like, it does. You know, I've spent hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours to figure this shit out. Like, you know, go figure it. Like, and I wouldn't have done that if it didn't make a difference, kind of thing. You know what I mean? Robin Nugget says, time to move to LA? No chance. It is way different in LA because it's really hard to fly in LA. So I would not want to be a cinematic FPV pilot in LA. Atlanta is arguably the best place to be. Freelojo says, I'm lazy, so I'm now working on a botanical farm. It's not laziness, man. I mean, maybe it's laziness, but it's probably not laziness. It's probably just you're finding what works for you, you know? Mustang Pilot is in the house. I haven't seen him in a while. I've been good, man. How about you? Freelojo says, I'm happy with my day job now. Very cool. Love that. Metal Dirksen says, day job is slowly driving me insane. Pays well, but serious golden handcuff situation. Probably should save all this for FPV therapy, lol. Yeah, I had a fucking hard time. I spent pretty much 20 years in corporate sales and project management jobs, and I probably shouldn't have spent that long in those jobs. My mental health probably would not have gotten so bad. But hey, you know, I learned a lesson. If I ever have to go back to that world, I'll approach it very differently, with boundaries, with very clear boundaries for myself and for the companies that I work with, and it'll be better. But you can't always do that. Scarecrow says, Universe will place that path below your feet, even if you can't see it, but you need to trust it first and move forward with purpose. Yeah, it's hard to do. It's very, very hard to do, and it's scary as shit. But if your eyes opened, and if, like, you're real with yourself, and you think that you can do it, then it's just a matter of doing it. But it's hard. There's a lot of sacrifices. A lot of sacrifices. A lot of sacrifices. You know, I make 1/3 to 1/4 of what I did working in a corporate job. And with that comes an unbelievable number of sacrifices, but in the grand scheme of things, I'm happier. I'm happier on this earth. And, like, what else matters? You know, like, there's no amount of money that I've had that has made me happier. Like, I'm making the least amount of money that I've made in the last 20 plus years, but I'm happier than I've ever been. And, like, fuck it. You know, I happiness first. And if things keep going the way that they're going, that will not be the situation for long. But if you're gonna do something like this and follow, like, a passion kind of recklessly, that's gonna happen. And it's gonna happen for a while. You know, Joshua was not instantly successful. Joshua put in, like, probably 3 or 4 years before, and he did it the right way. He put in 3 or 4 years with FPV on the side while he had his day job, and then once FPV was making him the same amount of money as his day job, he cut out the day job. That's the way to do it. I didn't really have that luxury because of, I won't go on a soapbox for that, but that's not what happened. That was not my path. I had a way more reckless path and dove into FPV when the corporate job went away. And that is not the way to do it. So that's why there's been such sacrifice for me. But I'm cool with it. I mean, that's what I had to do. This was my path. Maybe I should have sucked it up and gotten another corporate job for like another year, but I didn't, and like whatever. So, and you know, maybe me doing it this way will give somebody else the courage to do it in this same kind of reckless way. I don't necessarily know if I would recommend doing it this way unless you have a little bit more of a fallback. Initially, I did have a fallback, but earlier this year I lost that. Luckily, I'd built this thing up enough to at that point where I didn't need that fallback anymore. Very, 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 very luckily. But hey, you know, it's life. Just gotta live it. Don't have you know. I having these corporate project management jobs where I made 60 grand plus a year, for almost 20 years, kind of convinced my brain that that's what was like. I needed to make that much money and I needed to live life in that way to be happy, right? I needed to have a race car and a street car. I needed to have all these things, right, that money is a requirement for. And now I realize, and in the last like year and a half, I've completely broken out of that, and now I realize that like you just don't, like, you need just enough money to eat and have housing, and you know, you can, and hopefully health insurance. But yeah, I don't know. It's just been it's been great to break myself of that and see how little that I can live on and to see happiness come back. Yeah, I don't know. Interesting. More torture. Here we go. So I need to prep this ESC, and prepping these Acon 30x30s means running a little bead of epoxy around this center board. So there's a separate board in the middle here of this Acon 30x30 that you can kind of see. See it? See sort of the outline of this middle board? This middle board is held on by like 6 solder joints. 5. It's held on by 5 solder joints. 2 here, 2 here, and 1 there. I crash hard enough where I will break this separate PCB off eventually. I have found after hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of crashes. So I've found that the solution is epoxy, which is stuck in my toolbox. I like this JB Weld Clear Weld. I've used a couple different epoxies for this. This one seems to work the best. So yeah, we're gonna mix up a little bit of epoxy here, run a little bead around this, and then the ones that I've done this on have been actually indestructible. I have not broken a single one of these 30x30 Acons that I've done this little trick on, and they have hit the concrete from 30 stories up, from fucking full throttle, for like you name it, and I've done it. So yeah. Deep Thoughts by Aaron Ciotti. Yeah, Gamma Gonad. I would remember that name. I don't always rant like this, but I have a tendency to rant like this. So, yeah, welcome to the CiottiFPV show. It's one of the things that I really dig about live streams is that, you know, I've got like a platform that's more long form. You know, I couldn't do this kind of shit on like a vlog. Nobody would watch. I guess you guys might, but I don't know. Live streams just kind of lend themselves to longer form content, and I like to talk a lot, so. Buckle up, buttercups. Hopefully this epoxy has not hardened. Unfortunately, it has. Fuck a duck. Maybe I can just poke it out here, though. Maybe I can just give it a little poke here and bring it on back to life. Come on, please. 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 Shitters. God damn it, Larry. Nah, it's fucked. Alright, well, it's 4:30. I'm gonna have to buy some more epoxy. What else can I really do? I mean, I guess I can mount it and solder the motor wires up and then just, god damn it. I was so careful about putting the lid on proper. The cap is like really nice. It's got like a nice rubber seal. But this has been sitting in the toolbox for a while. Yeah, this is fully fucked. Alright, well, that blows goats. Alright, well, I gotta get hold on. I gotta write epoxy on the whiteboard or I'll never remember. Stand by. Epoxy getting written down on the board. Epoxy. And nut. Oh, hi, kitten. That's a weird spot that you're laying. Oh, balls. Frank Nicholas says, if you have to epoxy parts on your ESC, then maybe your ESC is not so robust. Yeah, you're probably right, Frank. What's another good one? Gamma Gonad says, a.k.a. Brian Ladmeraw. I don't know what you mean, Gamma. Ramdanko tagged me and didn't say... Ramdanko says, who hasn't been sold / loves Gorilla Glue? The Gorilla Glue epoxy is the one that I used before this JB Weld, and I actually didn't like it as much. I forget why I didn't like it. I think once it was fully cured, it wasn't as hard as the JB Weld stuff. Maybe I just didn't like it because it doesn't have JB in the name. I don't know. Mike Jones says, this shows how long it's been since CiottiFPV had to replace a board after epoxy. Yeah, very true, Mike. Very, very true. The Acon ESCs are just a thing of beauty. It's really amazing. Kevin Sumner says, I've had better luck with the Gorilla Glue epoxy. Same tube for 4 years, no problems. Damn. I think I'm going to try something off of Amazon this time. Because I think I've now tried all of the epoxies that you can get from like Lowe's and Home Depot. So maybe I'll try something from the Amazon. Yeah, the Gorilla Glue is what I used previously. Oh, you know what? I haven't tried this Loctite stuff, and I'm pretty sure that they sell this locally. So I think I'll try this, and then maybe I'll try this Quick Cure next, because I think this Quick Cure shit is used in the hobby aircrafts community. So yeah, maybe I'll try the Loctite next. Okay, interesting. Where the hell was I? Empty Head says it's not ketchup, bro. Scott FPV says, I ordered Ripsqueak V2 and some 2.5-inch arms. Looking forward to the build. Thank you for recommending it. You're certainly welcome, Scott. You're going to love that, man. It's the best 3-inch frame that we've got access to right now. Frank Nicholas says, I like T-motor, higher amperage. I don't fly hard. Yeah. I guess I'll try them then, once these Acons are all gone. King Turkey says, try rubber CA glue. I wouldn't want something that... I need... The epoxy is good because it really hardens. The rubber CA glue would sort of defeat the purpose of doing this. And it would allow movement, and movement is exactly what I don't want. This JB Weld stuff has been fully indestructible, so I mean, it's plenty. I'm tempted to just get it again, but it'll be fine. King Turkey says it's not really that flexible, but it's more flexible than standard CA glues, so it's supposed to be a little bit more impact resistant. Rubber CA glue, huh? Yeah, I don't know. I've had such good luck with the two-part epoxy that I'll probably stick with it, but that's interesting. I wouldn't think that rubber CA glue would harden enough. All of the rubber cement. Well, wait. When I read rubber CA glue is like rubber cement. Is that the same thing, or is rubber CA glue different than rubber cement? I know that rubber cement doesn't really harden super hard. I also wonder if there'd be any issue with that on circuit boards. I know for a fact, one of the other reasons I went with epoxy is that I knew for a fact that manufacturers use epoxy, so I know that it's not conductive or gonna hurt the board in any way. And it most certainly hasn't. So I'll probably stick with what's been working. Ramdanko says, when you hot glued the LED to the back of the 85X, did me in only a bit as it clicks into place. Anyway, glues. It does click into place, but it also would kind of easily fall out, which is why I hot glued it. But yeah, I didn't want it coming out. King Turkey says you cannot tell that it is flexible at all. Very cool. Okay. And then Ramdanko says only on rigged, locked-in gear stuff equipment. What were we talking about, Ramdanko? What were we talking about? What is that in reference to? Only on rigged. Not sure what that's in reference to, Ram. Totally different, King Turkey says. Okay, cool. And then Gamma Gonag says stick with what you know works. Epoxy for sure. Yeah, don't fix what's not broken. Yeah, typically I do that. But if there's a, I love when you guys have suggestions so that we can actually talk about it. Ramdanko says hot glue anxiety. All right, we're good to go there. Let me... Let's... I hate working on quads. Any possible excuse to not work. When did this stream start? When did it start? 3 o'clock? Can I kill 18 more minutes? I just lost all my motivation to work on this rig. I just really don't feel like it. I'm also kind of hungry, and the fucking cat won't stop rubbing up against my goddamn ankles. What do you want from me? I fed you like an hour and a half ago. What do you want from me? I'm gonna feed you to the stream. Look at this pile of shit. Nope, that's his butthole. Look at this big pile of allergies. What must be going on in that little peanut-sized brain? Hey, buddy. Is this what you want? Is this the attention that you want? Starting to get upset. I just got hit by his tail. I'm staggered that he hasn't freaked out yet. It's coming though. It's coming. He's plotting death. Oh shit. Uh-oh. My face is gonna get clawed off any second. Gamma gonad, typically that is liquid electric tape that they use. Which, what I don't like about liquid electric tape is how hard it is to get off. As we've all experienced with TBS stuff. Whee! Ever see a man get his face clawed off by a cat live on stream? You're about to. Look at how good he's been. That, buddy. Wow. You're really desperate for food if you let me. All right, hold on. I'm allergic to cats, so I gotta go wipe myself off. Be right back. Woo! Did you guys, anybody notice the new artwork? Can't really see it. This is frame just came in the mail, but this is some blip shift artwork that I just got recently that I'm just absolutely in love with. I'm an 80s kid, so this is pretty much it for me. The F40 is pretty much top of the food chain for me, and this is like such a cool illustration of it. The artists that submit artwork to Blip Shift are absolutely phenomenal. I don't know if I'm gonna. I think I'm gonna put this up somewhere else in the apartment. This is the artwork that's typically up there, which is an NB. This is basically like if I keep my Miata, this is what it'll turn into. I already have this front lip. This is the Garage Vary front lip. But they've got in this drawing, they've got a splitter on there, which I would eventually do as well. Different wheels, and then that's an APR, a Miata specific APR wing. So yeah, I really, really dig this artwork as well. Yeah! Yeah. Oh. Remy Tim says F40. I didn't know T-Motor made cars. They did in the 80s. T-Motor was making cars. T-Motor Testarossa. Gamma Gonad says, well, it's pretty hard to get epoxy off. It is, but it's not that hard, and it comes off all in one big chunk. But I don't use epoxy if I ever need to get it off. I use epoxy when I want something that's gonna harden once it's cured and really just grab. Kevin Sumner says, what do you use for putting foam on Cinewoop ducts? I don't. I don't put foam on my Cinewoop ducts. If I was going to, though, I guess I would just go to like Lowe's and get some foam for the doorways, weather stripping, I think it's called. Can you tell I don't own a home? And I think I would just use that because the adhesive on that is usually pretty good, and you can get a shitload of it and it'll last forever. Gamma Gonads, no, we got that. Metal Dustin says he's plotting death. They pretty much always are, so true. Michael Blade says, "Aw." Reload says you can do it. Mr. Huggy says, 3.5-inch Mod L flew fine today, needs a bit of tuning, but the TBS 69 is now dead. Wow, man, I've heard nothing but complaints about the TBS 69. Nothing. Nothing but people having a hard time with it. Video noise, them blowing up. Wow. TBS, what the fuck are you doing? King Turkey says, CA glue, I've repaired split camera cases with good success and reinforced some PCB components like you're trying to do also with good success. It's one part, no mix. Whoever it was talking about, so I mean, I have tons of CA. I actually have a couple of really fancy CAs here. These are apparently the best of the CA glue. This is 3M Scotch Weld, and I've got two different viscosities. I've got PR40 and PR1500. One of them is really loose, the other one is really thick. The 1500 is nice and thick. The PR40 is nice and thin. So if I need the CA glue to like penetrate like in between layers of carbon fiber, for example, I use the really thin one. If I want it to sit up on top, I use the thick one. I could probably just use this thick stuff to get this job done, but I've used epoxy in the past for this job and it's worked beautifully. And yeah, so I'm not gonna chance it. I'm just gonna buzz out and get some epoxy and do it the right way. Not the right way, but do it the way that I know what works. I know that it works. All right, coming back down to the bottom of the chat here. Ram says, LOL, epoxy off the Harry girl. What the hell does that mean? Yella Captain is in the house. Late to the party. Hello, you beautiful people. Special CiottiFPV. What's up, brother? Ask Grace says, brother Hobby Miata. King Turkey says, yes, use the thick stuff. You'll be fine. Yeah, I probably would be, but I'm not gonna. I mean, it's no big deal. I like having epoxy around. All right, I'm gonna bail. There's only 9 minutes left, so I'm gonna bail. And there's nothing that says I need to stream for 2 hours. It's just an arbitrary number. I've lost all will to work on this thing. I'll do some more work on it tomorrow night. I'm gonna go get some food, and I might hop on Assetto Corsa. I might just relax. I'll probably hop on Assetto Corsa tonight with the new. It's not up there. Where's my new headset? Oh, it's on the thing. Yeah, with my new headset with a good microphone on it, so you guys will be able to hear me. With epoxy, the components do not overheat, Cristiano. I've even epoxied the entire top and bottom of an ESC before to try to make it more durable, and it did not overheat. So yeah, epoxy is in my testing totally safe to put all over components to try to lock all the components in. Thanks for hanging out, people. Here comes some more flying from that crazy cross building. I will see you guys tomorrow night at 10 o'clock for Monkey Man Monday. I don't know what tomorrow night's stream will be called, but I hope to see you there. Here comes some flying with some epidemic sound. Music.
Ready to die, GoPro? Red Rig, Pro 2.
Oh boy, there's some foreshadowing. Ready? Ready to die, GoPro? Red Rig.
Pro 2s.
Oh, that's great. Past me, you clever bastard, you. I broke the microphone on the very next battery on the GoPro. Have an awesome Sunday. I'll see you guys tomorrow night. Later!